What is going on, guys? Welcome to your 30th MySQL tutorial, and in this lesson I want to talk to you guys about some additional pieces of information that you can use whenever you're creating your tables. They're going to come in handy. The first piece is null or not null. Now, whenever you create a table and you want to allow the people to insert rows, there are certain columns where you can leave empty and it doesn't really matter. For example, whenever you're making a website and you want a user to sign up and type in their username and password, you don't want them to leave this empty. So, in other words, you do not want this null. You do not want this empty. There are other times when you may have forms on your website that it's okay to leave empty. For example, you know those address forms that say address 1 and there's an optional address 2 if you live in an apartment or maybe you have some foreign address? Well, not everyone needs to fill out the address 2 or the second address, so it's okay if they leave that empty. But other times, such as name, zip code, you need to fill that in. So let me go ahead and give you guys a quick example. Username varchar, if you were to insert a row like this, where you definitely needed the information to be required, they couldn't leave it empty, such as a username, you definitely want a username. Go ahead and after you're done writing your data type, type the word not, not null. And what this means is not empty. They can't enter a blank for a username. So if you were to have something like address 2, you would go ahead and not even include that because address 2 is optional. But again, remember, whenever you want the information to be required and you can't have it empty, go ahead and type not null. And this means that if they try to insert a row of data without a username or with a blank username, it won't insert it into your table and it'll give them an error. So that's what not null means. It can't be empty. Another thing is something called auto increment. Now, whenever you're making a primary ID, say you want to make a primary ID, it's of course an int, and of course it's not null because that's the unique identifier. You can't have it empty. Now, we don't want the user to choose their own primary key. We want to do that automatically. Now, in order to do this, every time a row gets inserted into your database, we want it to increase by 1. For example, we want the first user that signs up to have the primary key of 1. We want the second one to have the ID number of 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So how can we do this? Well, at first you may be thinking, okay, so I'm going to have to make a query. I'm going to have to select the most recent user. I'm going to have to select their ID number, maybe make a formula, add 1 to it, and then throw it in for this one. Pretty confusing, huh? Or you can just use this keyword right here, auto underscore increment. Now, whenever you use the keyword auto increment, that means that it's automatically going to add 1 to the last ID. You don't have to do anything manually. It automatically adds 1 whenever you create a new row. So there you go. Instead of having to grab the last piece of data and making a formula to add 1, it automatically adds 1 to each entry. Sounds confusing. Once you get the hang of it, it's really not. So now let me show you guys what a final full table creation will look like. So let's say we want to create a table. We already have users and customers, so let's just name this, I don't know, people. You can even name it bacon or something stupid. Doesn't matter. So of course, let's just go ahead and enter the same information as before, ID, username, and password. Now ID is going to be the primary key, so int. Now of course, not null, and aside from that, auto increment. So this is going to start by default at 1, and it's going to keep going and going, add 1 to it each time. The user doesn't have to worry about the ID number. You don't have to worry about the ID number. MySQL is going to take care of everything for you. So again, their primary key is not null. It can't be empty, and it's going to increase by 1 each time. Now the next one, the next column is username, which is just text, letters and numbers, and we'll give this a max of 30, and this can't be empty either. And the third one is password, varchar, I think this was 20, and of course they need a password. They can't have this empty either. Now, last but not least, we already know that we want this to be the primary key. There we go. I was about to say primary IKEA, totally different. But MySQL doesn't know that yet, so we need to tell it. So primary key, we want one of these to be the primary key. Which one, you say? ID. So now we go ahead and create this table, and it says, okay, table created, bam, there you go. So now if we look at Bacon, it has ID as the primary key, username and password before, but now none of these are allowed to be null, and also ID gets auto incremented. So if we were to add some information in the Bacon table, say we wanted to, I don't know, insert 2 users or something. Check it out. For ID, I'm not going to put anything by default. And whenever you're programming your website or something, you don't insert any value in here explicitly. You let MySQL take care of it. So the first user comes along and his name is Bucky. He must be a pretty cool guy. And his password is password because he's an idiot. Now the next user comes along and her name is Sally and her password is Slam Bacon. So now we go ahead and hit go, and it says 2 rows inserted. But now we go ahead and look at our Bacon table and check it out. MySQL automatically gave Bucky the user ID of 1, and he gave Sally the user ID of 2. How awesome is that? And if we were to add more, we would just need the username and password, and MySQL would automatically give them the next ID of 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, so on and so forth. So there you go. That is how you, well, make awesome tables. And is there anything else? Let me think. No, that's it. So I mean, I guess I could sit here and not talk about anything else, but what would I do that for? So anyways, I'm gonna go watch some videos and maybe go get a milkshake at McDonald's. I know it's unhealthy, but come on guys, give me a break. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and no idea what I'm gonna be teaching in the next lesson, but it's gonna be awesome, so I will see you then.